This week on Unpacked, we're taking a look at Sony's live service plans as the company continues to cancel projects, a new game reveal from developer Rebel Wolves, which is comprised of many former CD Projekt Red developers, including the former director of The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, a quick preview of Assassin's Creed Shadows after spending 4 hours with it this week, and discussing the format changes to Unpacked, including what you can expect from the show going forward. At one point, PlayStation had 12 live service games in development, 6 of which were planned to launch before March 2026. After last year's disastrous Concord launch, they seemingly have fewer than 5 now. The only major successful live service launch for Sony thus far has been Helldivers 2. Last week, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier broke the news of the cancellation of Bend Studios' upcoming live service project, as well as Bluepoint Games' live service project, which was going to be a God of War game, of all things. No! This week, rumors have started circulating that Sony has also quietly shelved a Horizon MMO that was in development at NCSoft. This is a separate project to the online Horizon game in development at Guerrilla Games itself. This leaves Sony with just a few remaining live service projects in development, including Haven Studios' Fair Games, which was met with a pretty muted response at its original reveal and has been quiet ever since. Bungie is of course working on Marathon, which is planned for this year with an expected reveal happening sometime in the near future considering influencers got some hands-on time with the project just a few months ago. And finally, a project that's apparently codenamed Gummy Bears that is in development at a new studio under Sony and is some sort of mashup between a MOBA and Super Smash Bros. Some concept art was previously leaked for the game, but that's about the extent of what's known about it. It's astounding to me the amount of resources and development time Sony has thrown away on chasing the live service golden goose. Sony's bread and butter has always been strong single-player experiences, and to put studios like Bend or Bluepoint on live service projects is horribly misguided. A God of War live service game? Really? You have to be completely out of touch with your audience to think a project like that would get anything but an angry reaction from gamers online, and a big sigh of disappointment if it was revealed at a PlayStation Direct or any of the other big video game showcase events. Thankfully, as of right now, Sony has no plans to lay anyone off from Bend or Bluepoint, according to reports at least. But as we know all too well these days, that thinking can change on a dime if the money line isn't going up fast enough. The silver lining in all of this is that Sony has hopefully course-corrected internally and are getting back to what they're best known for: great single-player experiences. As far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any studio renowned for strong single-player games that has made a successful transition to the live service model. Anthem from BioWare, Marvel Avengers from Crystal Dynamics, Suicide Squad from Rocksteady, Redfall from Arcane Austin. If you can think of one, let me know in the comments. Marty made the argument for Rockstar and GTA Online, but they have infinite amounts of money. Recently, the development team at Rebel Wolves has finally unveiled their first game, titled The Blood of Dawnwaker, an ambitious new single-player action RPG from many former developers of CD Projekt Red, which includes the former game director of The Witcher 3. The game takes place in 14th century medieval Europe, where powerful vampires have deposed of the feudal lords and now rule society. You play as a Dawnwalker, who isn't human but isn't fully vampire either, and you have to choose to either save your family or take revenge and doom humanity. The game will utilize a full day-night cycle, with more traditional action combat during the day, while your vampire powers awaken at night. You'll need to make a lot of different narrative choices in the game, as the developer described it as a narrative sandbox, where you can even break entire quest lines based on your decisions or actions. For example, you haven't fed in a while, you may lose control and unintentionally eat your best friend in the game. The most unique aspect of the game, however, is that it features a 30-day time limit to add a sense of urgency to the story. Time only moves forward when you complete objectives or quests, a bit similar to how the Persona series works with its time system. Rebel Wolves also indicated you won't be able to complete every story or arc before the time is up, so no playthrough will be the same. The full gameplay reveal for The Blood of Dawnwaker is coming this summer, but you can watch their excellent reveal stream at the link in the description to get more details. Personally, I'm really excited to learn more about The Blood of Dawnwaker, as I've often talked about the problem of urgency in open world games. Many open world narratives put you on a quest that involves a world ending or stopping some other big, bad event from occurring. However, the way open world games are designed these days often contradicts their own narratives, giving you all the free time in the world to just frolic around collecting resources, going off on side adventures, or completing fetch quests for random NPCs. The way Rebel Wolves is designing The Blood of Dawnwaker, they want every choice you make to be in service of the story and world they're building. As the game's creative director put it in an interview with PC Gamer, Narrative Sandbox informs not only the main quest, it also informs all the other types of content that we have. You might encounter seemingly inconsequential smaller activities of the world. We were trying to make them tie into this main narrative. It kind of feels like a synergetic approach where all this content helps each other to be this cohesive whole. I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on this project as it continues development. I'm currently playing through Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which takes a very similar approach to how its quests are designed, to feed back into the main story of the game and development of its main character, rather than just feeling like optional side activities you can ignore, and I love it. This Tuesday, I finally got some hands-on time with Assassin's Creed Shadows. As a longtime fan of the franchise, I along with many others have been waiting very patiently for the series to finally take us to Japan. And after spending around 4 hours with the game, so far, it feels like they've done a pretty good job with it. I'll keep this preview pretty brief, as you're probably just going to watch gameplay of it anyway. I can't speak to the story much, as I was able to play the prologue of the game, which introduced the two main characters, Yasuke and Noe, and then after that I was transported much farther into the game to explore a specific area of the world in which I was able to take on one of the game's main quests. I didn't get a chance to really connect with the characters yet, as the prologue of the game didn't spend much time introducing me to either of them before major events happen, which I was a little disappointed with. I'll obviously need to see the full game before I make any final judgment on that though.
Interesting.
Both characters play quite differently from one another, with Yasuke essentially being a tank focused on action combat, and Noe being nimble and focused on stealth. Both characters are capable of being stealthy or facing enemies head-on, however, and I'm happy to report that my preview at the game alleviated one of my main concerns: combat. The most recent Assassin's Creed games have had really grindy combat focused on just whittling down health bars for the most part. While Shadows hasn't completely done away with that, the combat is much more fluid and fun to play. The animations have been significantly improved across the board, there's a new parry system that is more reminiscent of something like Sekiro, and with the addition of breakable armor and lots of environment interaction, everything feels really punchy and satisfying. It was also surprisingly difficult, forcing me to slow down, prioritize certain enemies, and focus on dodging and parrying. The combat isn't as refined as something like Ghost of Tsushima, but for an Assassin's Creed game, I think it's the best the combat has ever felt. That goes for the stealth aspect too, which has really been fleshed out compared to previous entries. You can use cover, crawl through the grass, and underneath certain buildings, hide underwater, extinguish lights, and of course one-tap assassinations are back on unarmored enemies. Shadows is definitely still an Assassin's Creed game, but from my time with the preview, everything just felt more refined and less hand-holdy, which is much appreciated. The world is incredibly detailed, beautiful, and interesting to explore. Combat felt great, parkour is back with a little bit of jank that you always expect from an Assassin's Creed game, and my preview was almost bug-free. Overall, as someone who's played all the previous Assassin's Creed games, I was impressed with Shadows and want to play more. If you're not a fan of the franchise and haven't been for some time, I don't think Shadows will convert you into one, as it just doesn't have the writing quality or cinematic flair of something like Ghost of Tsushima. That's okay. And that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed this reformatted Unpacked. I like doing the bigger essays, but we wanted to get the show out weekly, and I'm definitely having way more fun picking a few smaller stories that I think you'll find interesting, sharing them with you, and then unpacking my thoughts on them in a quicker format. Each week we'll be covering different topics from breaking news, to interesting new game announcements, the occasional game preview, and whatever else comes to mind. Occasionally, I may do a longer essay on a single topic if the material calls for it. If you have any suggestions for stories you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments, and we'll see you back here at 10 AM Central every Friday going forward. Design Dev will now be releasing every other Monday at 10 AM Central instead, so be on the lookout for a new episode of that at the new time the week after next.